In addition to the start of deal week, it's also our Q&A day. In terms of foundation and setting powder that I use on male talent, it really depends on what I'm doing, how much time I have, and who my talent is. I will give you a couple options that I like to use on male talent. Face Atelier Makeup Forever HD Liquid, not the radiant one. I often use that as just concealer, and sometimes that in spots is enough. Face Atelier gives a little coverage, very lightweight, but looks very skin-like, so that works well. Those I think are the two things that I go for the most often, and also the Makeup Forever HD concealer. So those three things are kind of what I reach for if I need to. As far as setting powder goes, usually MAC blot powder is one I use. The Maybelline Superstay foundation is another one. And then RCMA no color powder is a third option. But what I use and how I use it really depends on the job and the talent. Oh, this is a good question. I've never been asked this before, I don't think. I don't have a lot of insecurities at this point when it comes to like technique and actually being able to deliver what my clients need, because I've been doing makeup for so long. I started doing makeup when I was 16 and I'm 43 now. So a lot of the little stuff doesn't really bother me anymore. I think where I get most insecure is that in this job, very few people tell you you're actually doing a good job and you're like out there trying your hardest. I'm somebody that's like very dedicated to this job. I really like to work. I want to make sure my clients are happy. And oftentimes when people don't say thank you, or they don't say you're doing a good job, or you don't get positive feedback, it makes you feel a little bit insecure in terms of, are you doing the job they hired you to do? Like what is it that they're looking for? Am I delivering that? Especially clients that I have that work with other makeup artists, you always wonder kind of where you sit in the whole ecosystem of makeup artists that they're working with, just to know that you're, doing okay. So I think that's the biggest one for me. I actually used to airbrush with a machine. I think it was in the late 90s, early 2000s. And as far as things go right now, present day, I have no interest in lugging around a whole separate system. I can't be bothered. I don't work in a studio setting. So for me, I need things that I can move around, and just the pain of having the machine and all the stuff and the cleaning it is too much. And airbrush makeup in general, for me, with what I can do with traditional makeup application, I can't come close with airbrush. So to have it in my kit, to me, is just a waste. It's not something I would make use out of. I really like the Temp 2 pots because it was just this easy thing that kind of flowed with my workflow with more traditional makeup applications. But I think airbrush makeup with an airbrush machine, I feel like it's so dated now, and I feel like the finish of it, unless it's for a very specific thing or you're doing special effects, that's something different. But for me and the type of work I do, not interested. This is a great question. Do I know when I will be able to retire? The answer is right now, today, whatever day it is, I cannot retire. I don't have enough money saved for retirement. I did not make a lot of money in the first decade of my career. I'm just getting into a position now where I can start allocating funds for retirement. And at the pace that I'm going now, I still won't be able to retire. So I really have to kick that up into high gear. But I think what's important to learn from this is that when you start a business as a makeup artist, you need to speak to somebody who is financially responsible. You have to be financially literate. You have to understand what your tax obligations are, how much money you should be saving for your future, whether it's vacation, retirement. It's your responsibility to do that, and it's part of starting up a business. And you have to, be very on top of your finances. Every time you get paid, money has to be allocated where it needs to go. You can't just spend all your money at a Sephora sale, because the way this job goes, you don't know what the future is going to hold. It's a very hard career to do long term because of the financial stress. I'm going to be very honest with you. I recently had a discussion with my accountant, and essentially if I don't earn more, like a significant amount more annually in the next couple of years, I have to think about what I'm going to do to get more money so that I can have something in retirement. So that's interesting. I work very hard, and a lot of the money that I've earned has gone back into creating artist to artist and education, because I feel like that's where I'm going. But because of my age, time is running out in terms of how long I have to really increase my revenue every year before I can't continue to do this, right? So that's where I'm at. It's a situation that a lot of us find ourselves in. For me, it's just it happens to be going on right now. So this is a good heads up, but really watch your finances and watch where you're investing your money. Had to change my lighting. The lighting in front of my window today is terrible because it's so cloudy. Okay. This is a hard question to answer because it really depends on the year that I'm having. And there's a lot of times where you have to invest money in your kit to get more clients or to maintain certain clients. I think there's not a lot of predictable expenses in this job. And that's one of the hardest things that comes along with working as a freelancer. I think in bridal, it's a little more predictable, but for what I do for freelancing, it's, I don't know, sometimes it's 10%, sometimes it's 20%. I've had a string of clients over the last few years where the volume of work that we do is so great, so my cost is going to be higher, but I'm also earning more. And then there's years where I've had to really upgrade my kit to land and maintain certain clients based on what their needs are. So I think I can't give you an answer. I think some years I've spent $10,000 Canadian, some years 12, some years 6. It really depends on the type of year that I'm having. Russell wanted to join us for this one. Because I don't use a lot of pencils in my kit, I don't really have a problem keeping my sharpener clean, and I usually clean it right away. I will spray it down with Cinema Secrets, take a Q-tip to it, and I just do that as I go. So some days, if I am using it, I have a couple sharpeners as well in my kit, so I don't just have one, but I just try to stay on top of cleaning it, and that's just what works for me, but I'm not using it very often. I just find I spray with Cinema Secrets, take the Q-tip, get in there, or take a little spoolie and clean it, and I do that as often as I need to because I hate when I have a messy sharpener. This is another good question, and I think it really comes down to who the client is. But generally, one of our responsibilities as a makeup artist is to manage expectations, client expectations. Whether it's someone with acne or someone that's showing you a photo that's filtered, or a client that's asking you to do like magical things that you cannot possibly accomplish on a set, there's always going to be expectations to manage. My way of doing things is honesty is always the best policy. I'm very direct. I deal with things or call them out right away as soon as I see them. So as soon as someone sits down into my chair, if I think that they have unrealistic expectations about their makeup, I will talk to them about it right away. So I would say something like, if they have severe acne, I would say, look, with makeup, I can't do much about texture in person, but on camera, this is how I'm going to make everything look smooth and flawless. And here's some tips with how you can take your selfies and lighting. And I just kind of talk them through the process of what I can do and what I can't do. A lot of makeup artists don't want to say they can't do anything, but there's certain things that we just can't do, and you have to be honest. I think for myself, I wouldn't be able to get by on a panel of the makeup light and just the clamp and suction mounts. It just wouldn't work for me. A lot of the places that I work, there would be no place to clamp or suction mount to. The stand is really the most versatile. I can stick it in corners. I can pretty much put it anywhere. I've had situations where I'm kind of getting people ready in like the middle of a studio or on a side wall somewhere, and there's not anywhere where I could mount the light other than the stand. So I don't think that would work for me. I think it depends on where you're going to be working, but the stands always for me. I need lighting on stands. I think for me, this is kind of hard to answer. So I know how this career goes. I understand the ups and downs, and I understand that sometimes the downs are not really a reflection of me in terms of what I'm doing, and sometimes they are. And I think what works for me, my motivation and confidence kind of overlap with one another, if that makes sense. So when I am having periods where I'm not working that often, it's like I asked for this. I asked for the good along with the bad. When I chose to be a makeup artist and I decided to work for myself and be a freelancer, this is what I asked for. This is what I was dreaming of when I was working a full-time job. So if I don't continue to move forward and network and stay on top of things and do my creatives and do all the things that you need to do to keep things going even when it's slow, all of this is going to go away. And I also remind myself that if I got myself this far, I can get myself over the next hurdle. So that helps me deal with this as well. Oh yes, I used to bring around a full nail kit, different sizes of acrylic nails, like press-on nails, polish, gel, like all the stuff. I've had to do nails on set many, many times. Now I will not do it. I won't take jobs if they need me to do nails as well. I just can't be bothered. I'm not a nail artist. It's definitely a separate job. I'm already doing hair and makeup, which is the job of two people. I'm not doing nails as well. I keep in my kit some press-on nails and nail glue and stuff like that, nail file, but that's all I bring. If my clients want models to have their nails done, then they need to either get someone who does nails on set or pay for the models to have a manicure. I'm not a manicure person. I don't do it anymore. But at the time when I was first getting started and I wanted to make a good impression, I was doing hair, makeup, nails for a lot of things, especially for creatives and TFPs. and it was just what I had to do at that time. But now you're not going to catch me doing nails. Oh, this is tough for me to answer because it really depends on the products that you're using in your kit. And this is why I'm always like saying you have to practice, you have to see how your products work, you have to get familiar with all the products in your kit, because how you use them, how you layer them is really going to affect if they cake or not, or what they look like at the top of the day versus the end of the day. For myself, just in terms of what I use in my kit, how I deal with caking is, one, I'm not generally working with a lot of product on the face anyways. I use a lot of self-setting stuff. I try not to layer formulations that maybe don't agree with one another. Instead of going in and touching up with powder every single time, which is more product, I'll go in and maybe touch up with one of these if my talent is looking shiny, and then maybe powder a little bit. And then I'm just trying to minimize the amount of product that I'm adding onto the skin throughout a shoot day. And that's just what works for me and the products that I have. But this is stuff you're going to have to try and experiment with depending on the products in your kit. We all kind of start out very similarly, with no bookings, maybe not a large social circle, definitely no access to models. So you have to network. It's something you have to do very heavily in the first couple of years of your career, and it's something you will have to continue to do throughout your career. So you have to make those connections for yourself. If you don't have a lot of friends to do work on, then ask the friends that you do have to spread the word to their friends that you're doing makeup. You may also need to provide some form of payment to get people in your chair. It could be like a gift card to a coffee place. You have to get creative. But the great thing is we have social media. You can post on social. You can, again, ask your friends to tell their friends. If you are working somewhere, talk to your colleagues at work, send an email. Like, you just have to get creative and use any connections that you have and let people know you're looking for models for makeup artistry and go from there. But we all have to do this. It's just part of starting as a makeup artist. Black and white photography nowadays is not really a thing. It used to be something that people were doing in the 90s, early 2000s, but now what I find with black and white is we shoot in color, and a lot of clients want pictures in color and in black and white. So when you have black and white photography, you lose the undertone of all the products you're using, and it's just about shade and light. So when you go from color to black and white, and you can take photos on your phone that you've done of makeup and then just put the black and white filter over them to see what happens to your makeup when that filter goes over top. When in terms of what's best for black and white photos, it really depends on the lighting and what the end result is. But you really have to pay attention to the darkness and lightness of the makeup that you're putting on the skin. So if you want a shadow to show up in black and white, it might have to be maybe darker than what you would use in a regular photo. You may have to contour the cheek more intensely. Like, these are the things that you need to pay attention to. When you're working with mature skin in the under eye area, this is where you have to marry your color theory training with the correct product choice. So when I have clients who have mature skin, they have dark circles and wrinkles under the eyes, the first thing I'm going to be doing is moisturizing that area really well, because on top of that, I'm generally going to be using heavier coverage self-setting products to help with the coverage, but to also help prevent creasing and caking. And with those products, sometimes they pull a lot of moisture out of the skin, so I'll supplement with a good eye cream underneath first. Then I will likely use a color corrector based on whatever undertone their under eye circles are, and I'll make sure that that is self-setting. So for example, Shape Tape is a great example. Color correctors, you can put that on, and then I'll go over top with either a fuller coverage foundation that's self-setting like Makeup Forever HD, or a fuller coverage concealer on top. Sometimes I like to use the NARS depending on how much coverage I need. And got cut off, sorry, my eyes are so tired, I'm sure you can tell. What was I saying? So sometimes I'll use like NARS full coverage concealer. That can be drying on mature skin, but if you have a good eye cream underneath, it's fine. Products like the Makeup Forever HD concealer, those are all great. Lancome concealer is great for under eyes of people that have mature skin. So just products that have good coverage that really stick and sort of tack onto the skin. Those are the choices that I would use in combination with the right color theory and color corrector choice for those under eye circles. I get asked this question, I think, every couple of weeks. And with mature skin clients, I have mature skin clients that have better under eyes than some younger people because they've had like filler and stuff put in. So it's hard for me to answer. But if you're thinking about like a traditional older person with fine lines, some of the concealers that I mentioned in the previous
story. So Makeup Forever HD concealer. I really am loving the Lancome concealers, the original formulation of the liquid and also the radiant formulation. That one is so good. I really also like, I'm getting very tired if you can't tell, NARS Soft Matte, is that what it's called, concealer. I do like that one. I use that one a little more sparingly, but I just love the finish and I do find it gives good coverage. And then a lot of the times I just use the Makeup Forever HD liquid foundation as concealer, and I use Face Atelier foundation as concealer as well for mature skin. And drugstore option, probably L'Oreal True Match is another good one. It's like nice and hydrating. So those are some options for you. All right, I'm getting tired. I'm going to try to list off the products that I like. I'm really bad with product names, even though I've been using some of these things for like a million years. Also, warning, I don't necessarily use all of these products on a face when I have someone with oily skin. Sometimes when you do too much oil control, it can backfire and make your clients oilier, which is a nightmare when you're working on set. But as far as under makeup, I really like the Bioderma Sebium moisturizer for oily skin. That's really good. Right now, I'm also using the MAC oil control primer, whatever that one is. That's nice. As far as what goes on top, foundation wise, I like the Makeup Forever HD. I find that's great for oily skin. I like the Maybelline Fit Me oil absorbing press powders. That's really good. MAC blot powder is excellent, and Urban Decay or Skindinavia oil control setting spray is also very good. And then sealing everything with the Kryolan fixing spray. Those are excellent for oily skin.